better? They do. Dr. Shevin says these acts could trigger a ripple effect of kindness, changing countless people's days for the better.
Working for you. This is Fox 2 News at 6.
We begin tonight at 6 with breaking news from Wayne, where a construction crew unearthed what we're being told are human remains. Let's get live to Fox 2's Jessica Dupnack. She has more on what else we've learned. Jessica.
Rube, let me paint the picture here of where we are standing. We're along Michigan Avenue near Newburgh here in Wayne, right across from the Ford plant. Behind me, this vacant lot, some surveying crews. They were out here earlier today, maybe looking to develop the property, and they stumbled on a human skull sitting right on the brush. Let's take a look at some video of that skull. Now, we have blurred the images just out of sensitivity. As we all know, this isn't just remains. This belongs to a person. This is someone's loved ones. Now, what we understand is that this skull is likely linked, and this is per police, to remains that were found in this same area back in March. Now, those skeletal remains, they didn't have a skull with them, so that is why police are making that link. Now, we can't say that for sure, but that's the speculation at this point. Now, going back to the find in March, that was sent to the Wayne County Medical Office. That was 9 months ago. They still do not have an idea at this point of who those remains belong to. And I talked to one of the lieutenants over at Wayne Police today. I said, is 9 months a long time for something like this? Do you have some resolution? He said, not at all. Unfortunately, these types of situations, they do take time to unfold. So again, just to recap, surveying crews out here in Wayne along Michigan Avenue. They were in the woods behind me earlier today, and they stumbled across a human skull, likely linked to a case back in March that was found in the same area. Now, I posted this on social media. A lot of folks were asking, why wasn't the skull found back in March when the other remains were? That information is unclear. Now, the skull will be sent to the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office for analysis and hopefully some resolve. Again, this is someone's loved one. Reporting live in Wayne, Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, and Jess, in terms of timeline, do we have any idea how long it'll take for the lab work to come back to perhaps connect this to the other remains?
That's a tough one, Roop. I know that it's not unusual here in Wayne County for it to take at least a year. We actually have an interview lined up with a forensic anthropologist to kind of unpack what happens next. Join us at 10. We'll hopefully have some more answers.
Now, we'll look forward to talking to you then. Jessica Dupnack for us live tonight. Thank you. Right now, Fox 2 continuing to follow breaking news from Detroit's west side. That's where a house on Fourier Street near Greenfield has been destroyed in an explosion. Fox 2 Scott Wolchek with a closer look at the devastating aftermath.
You can see it's still quite an active scene here on Fourier Street. This house absolutely demolished here. Thankfully, nobody was inside, no injuries. We spoke with neighbors who had been just outside prior to the explosion. Thankfully, one of them felt cold and went inside before, boom, this thing went off. Now, DTE has shut off the gas line here, and they have confirmed that, yes, DTE was out here working on this home. They have done their inspection. They found that everything was in safe working order. So right now they've got that gas line that they're digging out. Everybody else here is safe. That's according to DTE, and they're working to find out exactly what happened. How long will this investigation take? Well, we'll have to see exactly. But let's hear a little bit from some of the neighbors who were out here and witnessed this explosion.
We was talking in front of his van. We both smelled gas. The meter was ticking. He said, man, gas ain't supposed to tick. He said he was cold. Went in the house. I came and sat in my truck. 3 minutes later, it blew up.
That's your car that got all smashed up?
That's my car.
What's going through your mind?
I'm glad I wasn't in it. You know what I mean? I'm glad I wasn't in that. Good thing I had another one. I'm sitting in that, but I watched it blow up.
I just heard a boom, and it woke me up out my sleep. I'm like, oh my God, I thought something happened to my house, because I run to the door and seen that. I'm paranoid. I'm scared. I'm just ready to move. I'm ready to move. I mean, man, this is crazy.
Definitely a close call, and I'm sure that the one neighbor is glad that he didn't bring his jacket out today. This could have been a much worse situation. Of course, it is terrible for this homeowner, but we will see exactly how this all plays out. We do know that the City of Detroit's Housing Services team is assisting the neighbors who were impacted by this, who may not be able to get back into their homes as they're analyzed by DFD and DTE just to make sure everything's safe. For now, reporting on Detroit's West Side, Scott Walczak, Fox 2 News.
Well, now to a news alert involving new charges in a case that's long frustrated law enforcement in Lenawee County. 15 years after 3 boys from Morenci actually disappeared, prosecutors have now charged their dad, John Skelton, with homicide. Let's get live to Fox 2's Hillary Golson. She's following the developments and joins us now with the new information. Hillary.
Yeah, so obviously this is a case, as you said, that has hung over the hearts and minds of Michiganders now for a very long time, close to 15 years. And now John Skelton has been charged. You remember what happened back in 2010, I'm sure. The boys were with their father in Morenci, and he was supposed to return them to their mother. At the time, Mom and Skelton were having some issues, and so they were separated. The problem is Skelton never brought these boys back to their mom. Now, we know that the investigation spanned into Ohio, into Michigan, with investigators looking for these young boys. Their bodies have still, at this time, never been recovered. This was such a sad case. The 3 Skelton brothers were declared legally dead, as you probably remember, earlier this year. For years, John Skelton has been the prime suspect in their disappearance. Investigators say he spun a web of lies here, sending police to a schoolhouse and then to a dumpster in Ohio, while claiming he had handed the boys to strangers for their safety. Police say none of that ever checked out. Now Skelton is charged with 3 counts of open murder and 3 counts of tampering with evidence of the deaths of his son, 9-year-old Andrew, 7-year-old Alexander, and 5-year-old Tanner. Is there any evidentiary significance to the fact that the boys were declared dead earlier, I believe, this year? Does that help the case, or does it help prosecutors here?
I would say it absolutely helps the case because now we have a legal finding that these 3 young boys, unfortunately, are deceased. But what's going to happen, what the jury's going to be looking at, is the facts of the case going back to that time. With the evidence that exists at the time of the alleged incident, does it meet the elements for any of these degrees of murder and tampering with evidence?
So, Skelton had been in jail for some 15 years and was scheduled to actually be released just days from now. So the timing of these charges, of course, is something that's been called into question, whether or not there's actually new evidence or whether this is just a prosecutorial review. Sometimes when you have new eyes on a case, that can unveil something new or a different way to potentially present the evidence that might lead to a conviction. And the key here is might. There is no guarantee, despite the fact that the lead investigator in this case was Michigan State Police, said he was absolutely clear in his mind. It had no doubt that Skelton was behind the death of these 3 boys. However, all of that, of course, is something that'll have to be presented to a jury, possibly, and they'll make the call. Roop?
Yeah, interesting and obviously important developments here for the family and for these 3 boys. You know, looking forward, you pointed out astutely in the last hour that, you know, these are simply charges. We don't know what's going to happen here. However, it'll be interesting to see what kind of a defense this attorney puts up for John and what explanation he has for what could have happened to these boys.
Yeah, well, one of the questions that I have is this issue of temporal jurisdiction and double jeopardy. So obviously the first imprisonment had to do with unlawfully keeping these children and kidnapping. That's why he was able to be convicted. However, there are some fact patterns, of course, that absolutely overlap. So the question of double jeopardy is one that I had questions about. Now, obviously, these are open murder charges, and that'll have to be something that the jury comes to a conclusion about. But that sort of detail is the nuance that likely will determine the outcome here. And I think a lot of legal scholars will be looking at this case and how it's prosecuted. And look, this is a huge case that certainly spanned not just across Michigan, but across the nation and grabbed international headlines. So some of this is also the way that this is perceived in the media and in the public. And I suspect that prosecutors will likely be pulling on that sympathy from the community in their effort to pursue a criminal conviction here against John Skelton. Roop?
All right, Hillary Golson for us live tonight. Thank you. We do have developing news from Detroit's west side to tell you about tonight. A suspect in custody accused of shooting his own mother. It happened around 1 this afternoon on Rutherford Street near McNichols. Detroit police say they got there to find a 78-year-old woman shot multiple times. Her son was placed in custody, and police recovered multiple weapons. The mom was hospitalized and is now in stable condition.
You have a conflict resolution problem that's being solved by a firearm. You have a mother who is 78 years old. You have a son who's in his 50s, and the son was obviously unable to resolve his conflict without resorting to a firearm. That is what is concerning to me.
No word yet on a motive in this shooting. An update now tonight on 3 Pontiac kids found living in this apartment filled with waste and rotten food with no running water. The Oakland County Prosecutor's Office say they've been placed in safe homes and are reportedly doing well tonight. We're told they've also started the process of enrolling in school and will soon have medical checkups. As for their mom, 31-year-old Teremos Johnson, she's been charged with 3 counts of second-degree child abuse and is currently being held on bond. In Dearborn Heights, police say an Illinois man has been arrested and charged accused of making a threat against a local mosque. According to detectives, 63-year-old Kenneth Gerke was tracked down for allegedly making the threats back in September. He now faces multiple charges, including false report or threat of terrorism, hate crime, and aggravated stalking also. Today, 3 Dearborn men have been indicted in connection with an alleged terror plot on Halloween weekend. According to court records, Mohammed Ali, Majid Mahmoud, and Ayub Nasser were all named in a federal indictment alleging they conspired to provide material support and resources to a terror organization. The indictment comes from a federal grand jury that handed down 2 conspiracy charges on Wednesday. The trio is accused of coordinating with ISIS to plan a series of attacks that range from clubs in Ferndale to Cedar Point in Ohio. All right, it's 46 degrees outside, looks beautiful outside, and you know what, it really is, especially when you have something to compare it to. Rich Luderman 3 days ago, it was like 19 degrees outside, so we're good.
We were in the deep freeze Sunday, Monday, Tuesday this week. Right now, not bad at all at 46 for us, 43 in Traverse City, even as far north as Marquette and Sault Ste. Marie. Numbers there in the middle 40s. How about some great live shots from South Haven, Michigan? Looks very nice out there. Chilly with numbers in the middle 40s, but quiet. For us tonight, we'll get down to 33, so temperatures will fall off steadily for the rest of tonight. And then here's a peek at the next few days, right through the weekend. 53 tomorrow. How about 62 on Saturday with a stray shower, and then breezy and cooler Sunday, but no big storms on our forecast group. We'll check that 7-day coming up in 10.
Good news. Thanks, Rich. Long lines today in Detroit. We are still weeks away from Thanksgiving, but this free turkey giveaway had people willing to line up and wait for hours to get theirs. More on today's event just ahead. Also tonight,
exciting plans for the future of downtown Detroit. How developers are envisioning the Rensen and the Riverwalk.
I promise I won't sing, but hey, ain't no mountain high enough. We'll tell you about an important milestone as the Motown Museum construction project reaches new heights when we come back.